welcome to Savvy Programmer, and my name is RB, and I'm doing this tutorial series actually for all beginners. I noticed that my last tutorials were not too much beginner friendly, so I want to go ahead and do another tutorial series where I teach you iOS for those people who absolutely have no coding experience whatsoever. You don't have to have any coding, computer science, or any kind of degree, or any of that. So you could be like a doctor and you wanted to learn iOS, and I'm here to teach you that. So I'm gonna go and explain everything step by step. So one thing that you need to in order to learn iOS and do iOS programming is a MacBook or any kind of Mac that has Xcode, and you probably want to have the most recent Mac or Mojave or the most recent one. It doesn't matter, but as long as you have that, you can go ahead and follow tutorials. If you don't have that, then I'm going to create a tutorial where you can use a virtual machine for it. But for now, let's go ahead and just do it on a Mac. So you can download Xcode from the App Store. If you go to the App Store on any Mac, search for Xcode and go enter that in the search column and go ahead and search for it, and you should see like the first download. It's a huge download. It does take about 2 hours to download. It's a gigabyte download. So if you just go ahead and pause this video and come back. So let's start Xcode. I have it already installed, so you should have it installed now. I'm gonna go ahead and click on Xcode, and you can look for it in the just holding down Command and pressing the spacebar. So once you have open Xcode, go click on File and click on New Project and select the single view app. So what we're gonna do today, since you're never coded before, this is an environment where Xcode kind of teaches you, gives you all these tools in order to code. So what you need to do is basically click on iOS and single view app and click on Next and select the product name. Like, so it's going to be first tutorial. And the team is basically, so the team is actually development team. You don't have that yet. In order to have a development team, you need to pay like $9 to Apple. And we usually do that when we want to launch the app to the App Store. We're not doing that, so we're learning how to make an app. Org that your first name is okay for now because we're just doing a tutorial. The language is going to be Swift, and the user interface is Storyboard. Use core data, and don't worry about that. That's all saving into memory. You don't need to know that right now. So click on Next and select and save it to the desktop. I already have this name, so that's what it's telling me, so I'll just do one. If you have the name, if you follow my other tutorials, then go ahead and change the name. Okay, so I'm going to describe to you what this means. So we have the environment for coding, and on the left hand side where you see 3 sections, the first section, which is the left section, has basically all the files that are pre-written for this project. Creates like a kind of like a small project for you. Remember, we selected the single view application, so it has a single view, and so each file. So you have the app delegate, which basically controls the life cycle of the app. So if the app is going in the background, and if you want to do something, and if you want, the app is going to foreground, if you're hard shutting the app. So it controls that life cycle, which you don't need to know anything about right now. This is more advanced stuff, and this is also more advanced stuff. And so we're going to go right to the ViewController, and this is where we write the code. So we want to start with the main storyboard. So what it is the main storyboard is the main section of the app. So the main section of the app has a view, and the view has basically a view controller. It controls the view. So whatever happens in the view is controlled by it. So view is kind of what you see on screen when you launch an app. It's the first screen that you see. Remember, like you launch like a Facebook app or something, you see that first launch screen. So that's that view, right? And you're gonna put buttons on it. We're gonna put labels on it, and then we're gonna connect it to the code in order to do to accomplish something. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have the view. In order to search for something, click on the plus button, and then you can look for labels, buttons, segment, whatever you want. You have a list of all these controls. So I want to go ahead and so what we're gonna make. So let me tell you what we're gonna make. We're gonna make an app where you press the button and it changes the color of the text, so the label, and it also changes what it says. Very simple app. I think it's perfect for a beginner. I know it's not too complicated and it's nothing to be like excited about, but I want to teach you iOS, so I think the best way to teach you is to teach you a very simple, slow way, right? But it's gonna get tougher, trust me. So in the main storyboard, so you got the main storyboard, and we want to press the plus again, and we're gonna go ahead and look for a label. So we can type the label, and we'll just drag it over to the. So when you drag it over, you see this plus button, and I want to center it. So I'm just gonna see that it draws a line. So go ahead and center like that, and say first tutorial. So on this right side, it's all the property inspector. So remember I told you this is a view. This is also a view. This is a child view. So each component is actually a view itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the center, and I'm gonna go ahead and I can change anything I want for this text. I can change the color. I can change how it's highlighted. I can change the orientation. So I want it to be in the center, right? And I want to be able to, I can change the tint, I can change the background color, I can change anything I want, and I can do this also in code if I wanted to. So I want also a button. So if I press the plus button and I select the button, I can just drag it over, and again I want it to be center, right? So I just do center like that, and there you go. And I want it to say pressed, okay? And I wanted to increase the size of the font. Like I said, this also every control has a property inspector, and you can change all the configuration for it. So I just changed the font size by just going where it says font and it says system 25. I just increase it to, let's select 34 or something. Okay, and let's go and write code now. So this is the first time. You should be very excited. This is the first time you're writing code. And the way to write a code, remember I said we have a view controller. So you have the view that you worked on, and you have the controller. Now it controls everything about the view. So we're gonna go ahead and connect everything that we have from the view to the controller. How are we gonna do that? So we're gonna go to the main storyboard, and we're gonna go ahead and select the first control, which is the label. So so we want to be able to see both the code and the view next to each other. In order to see that, there's this plus button right here. So on the where is this file menu? If you go one level down, you have this plus button. It's to the left of the property inspector. It looks like a sheet. It has a plus. So press that. It says add editor on the right. Click on that, and now I want to be able to search for my code, right? So I can just go click on this 4 boxes and say recent, and I'll select the ViewController. There you go. So now I got the code and the view next to each other. See that? Because what I want to do is I want to do a connection so they can talk to each other. So that whatever I write in the code changes in the view. Because this is the controller, it controls the view. So I'm going to go ahead, click on this, and hold down make sure I give you the right. So it's the right mouse button. Hold down the right mouse button. Don't let it go until you get to the code. And once you get the code, you see this kind of like a line drawn. It says insert outlet or outlet collection. So let it go, and then you'll see this connection right here. And it says outlet because it's an out. It's coming out to the code, right? And it's to the ViewController, the controller. And we're gonna name it something. You can name it anything you want. Text first tutorial. It's a text and it's a first tutorial. It could be actually a label because we're making a label. Label first tutorial. There you go. And then it's a type of label because it's a type. Every component has a type. So this is a type of label. This type of button. So that's why it's type of label. And just click on connect. Now you're connected. You're connected to the code. Aren't you excited? Alright, so now you got the press. So this button, this is a button, remember? We want to create not an outlet anymore. We want to create an action because why? Because the button, whenever you press it, it causes an action, right? So think about it like that. You press a button, it causes an action. So if I go ahead and right click on it again and hold down the mouse button all the way until I make sure the line that you're drawing is underneath the view did load, like all that code. So make sure it's after the squiggly line, not the last one, but the one before last. Let go and say pressed, did press. That's it, did press button. Or you can name it anything you like, it doesn't matter. So it's an action, remember, it's on the ViewController because it's a controller, and it says touch up inside. What is touch up inside? It's actually type of touching because you can have gestures and all that. Remember, when you have your iPhone, you can do gesture, you can do different kind of touches, but this is touch up inside, just tapping it. Basically, you're tapping it. And click on connect. So now we're connected and we have an action, right? So what do you want to do in the action? So now we're gonna write real code. So you can go ahead and close this editor on the right. You can close it by pressing the X button right on the other side of it. Just close the editor. Close it. Okay. Now let's clean this up nice and clean. There you go. And we want to do something to the, so we have the code for the label, right? But I want to do something because this is an action, so I want to do something. I want to go ahead and take the label, type in the label, whatever you named it, make sure you, and if you press dot, you'll see all these options that you can select from. There's a bunch of options. Don't worry about, there's like so many options. But now what I want to do, remember what we're doing right now is we're drilling down to the property inspector. Remember you saw the property inspector? I'm doing that with code. So I'm saying, go ahead, dot, I want the text of it, I want to change the text. So I want to change it, say, I pressed the button, or something like that, right? And I want to change the color of it. Now, I mean, I can do a lot of things with this label. I can change the color, I can do anything I want. But I want to go ahead and change the color now. So I should say text color. You probably think that do I need to memorize all this stuff, all this? No, you don't need to. You can look at the property inspector and kind of like, you know, as you practice more and work on different apps, you'll learn it. When you press dot, you'll see the options, and then you can check the property inspector and see if it exists. So I want to change the color to a UI color dot, because there's a UI color type, right? Dot red. I can also short note this and remove this because it already knows the UI color, because when it returns it, it's red. So there you go. You got your first application. Aren't you proud of yourself? The application that actually does nothing really. It just changes color and text, but it's your first application. And there's so many other applications we're gonna write. You're gonna be amazed. This is just the start of it. You should be proud you actually coded. Okay, so let's go ahead and select. So we're gonna run this in a simulator. Means basically we have like an iPhone that it's a simulator iPhone. It's not the real iPhone, and we can run it. So in order to do that, you press this button, and you can see a list of all these iPhones. You just select iPhone, whichever you like. You can do iPhone 8, you can do 8 Plus, whatever you want. So we're gonna go at 8 Plus, and there's a plus, kind of like a play button that says build then run the current scheme. So you're actually building the code. You're building all this code that you wrote, including all the views actually turned into code, and the machine, it's all turned, it's translated into machine code, and then you see the view. So I press this button, you can see this building, constructing, build descriptions, and doing all this stuff. All of a sudden, my screen isn't, you won't see it, so I brought it here. So there you go. So it's running now. So it's gonna do some really cool stuff now. There you go. So you got the first tutorial, and it says pressed. Okay, so that's what I said, press. Remember, we initially said press. So if I say press, oh, it doesn't fit. So it doesn't fit. Actually, we can change that, no problem. So we can go ahead and in the storyboard. Remember, we didn't set any kind of layout stuff yet. We're gonna learn that in the next tutorial. But for now, what we can do is we can increase this thing right here, like that, and like that, and make sure it's on the center still. There you go. Now it's gonna have room for whenever it increases the text. There you go. So I want to make sure it's on the center. There you go. And you do 0 lines. So 0 lines, what it does is basically if it overflows on one line, it goes to the second line. All right. So let's go ahead and run it again. I pressed the first. Okay, there you go. So you got your first application, and if I keep on pressing it, you're gonna see that it's being pressed, but it's not changing because it keeps on doing the same code. So the code, what it does is when I press this, it comes here. The way code is written is top to bottom. So the computer reads, says, okay, I'm gonna import UI kit, which is basically the application that people wrote, Apple wrote for me, so it makes coding easier. So then I come here and say I have this label, so I'm gonna take the label of the connection, I'm gonna read that, and I'm gonna say view did load is the first basically screen that's loading. So when screen has loaded, this is called. So it says super. Remember, super is like the one basically that the child, and then you have the parent. Super is the parent. And then it comes here and it says, okay, now if I press this, it's going to call here, and then it's going to come to this label and change its text, and then it's going to change the text color. And that's it. You got your first application. Congratulations. I'm very excited to teach you more tutorials. So be sure to subscribe and click on the bell, because I do update every week, and sometimes I do more than one video a week. Alright, and if you have any comments or questions, be sure to post them below, because I do answer all my comments.